Alright, how's it going, everybody? I'm Weston and you are watching Live with Lava Sub. You can find my work at Lava Submersible on Instagram and TikTok. Today we're going to be doing something a little conceptual. This is an image that you are looking at. This is an image from the Willow trailer that just dropped a few days ago, and that I'm immensely excited about. I'm a literal lifelong fan of Willow. It's one of those movies that I watched over and over and over again as a kid, and then also as a teen, and then also as an adult. So a lot. Maybe one of the most watched movies in my catalog, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, this is from the trailer, and I lost my mind the day it came out. It consumed my entire day. I had to keep watching it, rewatching it. And, this image was really compelling to me. Not just because of how the composition is so, I don't want to say perfect, but I mean, just look at this composition. It is pristine. I'm just going to highlight a few things that I really love about it. This is Cherlindrea's wand. And what I think is really interesting about, in the composition about it, it is just off center, you'll notice. It is just to the right of the frame. I don't know if it's flipped in your perspective, I don't think it is, but that'll be just to the right of the center of the frame. And the point of the wand is right below, kind of signifying the bottom third. Also in alignment with Warwick's feet here. This is just such clean composition. You notice, without even drawing much on, I've already established a very, you could crop this image out and it would be its own clean image. This part of the third essentially replacing this slight black line that is kind of taking up that very edge of the frame to kind of act as a framing device for this whole composition. And then, just emotionally, I absolutely adore this movie so much, and seeing Warwick, seeing Willow in frame, kind of this fuzzy image back here. We know that this is Warwick for a number of reasons, but especially this staff cutting through the frame here, kind of reflected in this shadow, kind of creating this arrow shape. It's just lovely, pleasing to the eye. But we know this is Willow, and we know that this staff he's carrying is of either his own making or has been something that he has been given since our time with him in the original film. Willow, during the film, was carrying this wand, Cherlindrea's wand, that he was given by the Queen of the Forest, Cherlindrea, who's a important character in the film, appearing essentially to ultimately give Willow the quest of seeing Elora Danan to safety, helping the prophecy come true, and defeating Bab Morda, the antagonist in the film. If you haven't seen it, I apologize, I'm going to talk about it. But it's an amazing movie, and I can't recommend it enough. I think it's underrated as far as modern fantasy goes. We don't talk about Willow enough as a people who in the last few years have definitely started having a much more mainstream appeal to fantasy, and even specifically dark fantasy, which I wouldn't say Willow is very dark specifically, but it is on the scale of children's entertainment that you could kind of think about now. It's very different. It's quite a bit bloodier than a lot of kids' entertainment at this point. It's quite a bit more graphic in its depiction of violence, and a little more honest. And it also has a number of tropes that we don't see as often anymore. Willow himself being this proletarian farmer who, kind of essentially saves the world while learning about himself and this wonderful wonderful parable. Anyway, I could talk about this image all day, and I plan to, at least for the rest of the stream, talk quite a bit about it, especially considering we have a podcast that is done through Nerdcrafty called Ignore the Bird, Follow the River. If you haven't listened, we have 7 episodes, if I'm not mistaken, available, including our most recent interview with Alan Varney, the TTRPG legend, writer, and man of great mystery. No, a really wonderful dude that we got to spend a couple hours with, chatting and chopping it up about tabletop RPGs. Just a really wonderful dude. It was great to spend that time with him and learn from his experience. He's been doing this so long, so definitely recommend checking that out. And the rest of our deep dives into these characters from this story, you'll probably hear a little bit of repeat information from this stream to that podcast, because it is something I talk about a lot. But let's get into this. I told you it was a bit conceptual. We look at this this framing. We have a very blurry image in the background that is ultimately the focus of it, rather other than the wand that is in the just off center of the frame. So we have this very blurry image in the back, contrast with this very clear image in the front, and a almost like wash of color from right to left, this golden hue. And I think I wanted to try and tackle kind of just getting the layout for the background first, and I wanted to do it in a kind of simple way, see if this works. And this is a trick I do sometimes. Maybe you will get some use out of this too. So what I'm doing, I'm just using my basic inker pen. It's very clean, very clear what I'm writing or drawing when I need to. In this case, that's exactly what I'm doing. So I'm going to go over here into the brightest area, and it's going to give me this white, orange, kind of yellowy hue. It's almost like a flesh tone. It's very clean color. So I'm going to take the values that are down here, the number values of this color, and I'm just going to write them on a fresh layer. So it's 20, 82, 7, or 20, 82, 72. So I'm just going to write that here. 20, 82, ooh, what? That's not an 8. 82, 72. And then I'm going to go into this darkest value here. I'm going to pull the color. I come up with this nice brown maroon kind of color. That's 8, 64, 10. I'm just going to write that right next to it. 8, 64, 10. And those are the values that I'm going to use with a fill tool. Linear fill, so this will go side to side with the fill. And I do the fresh layer on top so that I can do this. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and directly cut out this center gray tone, because that kind of just is the middle point of the two colors. That's what it's trying to tell me. I'm going to flip the sides, because the dark and the light sides are flipped in this composition. And I'm going to select the lighter color, and I'm going to put in the value as 28, 82, 72. These sliders, I'm on my phone, so these sliders are going to be somewhat of an approximation, but we'll get there. It's all good. It doesn't have to be exacting. 82, 72. There we go. And you see we get that nice color coming through. We're just going to go over to the darkest values and do exactly the same with the dark value we wrote down. 8, 64, 10. 8, 64, 10. Perfect. So, I'm just gonna say, okay, thank you very much. Fill tool, go away now. And then I'm gonna just flicker, flicker, flicker. And that looks pretty clean. It's not exact. You see there's like horizontal kind of streaks running through the frame. This kind of mirrory, misty, watery haze that, you know, kind of implies there's some kind of maybe magic at play, or at least some very extreme weather conditions, maybe. But yeah, we see this kind of these horizontal streaks that we're gonna have to work in. I think that's gonna be relatively easy. So I'm gonna hide my top layer that is our reference for the colors. I'm gonna open that back up. I feel like there's a little bit too much. You know what we're gonna do? Because I liked this, and because the fill tool's now been told what colors I want it to use, it'll let me just do that again, but with different fill tool. I'm gonna try and use the radial tool, radial fill tool, and see if that has a different effect. Oh, it's not going to help me. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly throw those in. Oops, I forgot. Alright. That's 28, 82, 72. And what's cool about this trick is it doesn't have to be exactly like this. If you're not trying to do the exact same thing as like you could pull this color off of any reference photo and use it in any drawing. If you're not trying to get this kind of gradient hue, you could be using this for, yeah. Like if you wanted to do a similar kind of gradient on a character's clothing. Okay, that's more the shape we're trying to achieve though, I think. I like this. Let's, I'm just gonna keep it. I'm gonna add my other color in, 8. $64.10. Let's see if I can get it. Hey, we did it. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna put that real close to the frame. It's not quite it. Not quite. I think we want to pull it out even further. You know what? I'm gonna take this color. 20 at 82, 72. I'm going to put it in the center. And I'm going to add this as a more pure white. And then I'm going to pull that back. Just a fraction. So we're still getting this gradient, but with just a little more brightness at the front. And I like that. I'm gonna see what that looks like. Yeah, that's way more what we're looking for. In fact, I think it could be a bit darker, but that I think we can achieve with our next layer. So I'm gonna just, I guess I can, this is a big piece, so I'm gonna try and keep my layers minimal. Get rid of that color reference layer, and now we're just left with our background and our fresh layer. Okay, now I don't have the background layer up. I want it put away for right now, so I can focus on trying to achieve these horizontal streaks that are almost at a slight diagonal, I'm just now noticing. Or my frame's not 100% zeroed out. No, it is. Okay, yeah. So I think there's just a slight horizontal, or a slight diagonal to this. And I tell you what, I don't plan on doing this by hand. Because this is a very small frame on my tiny phone screen. I'm going to use this wonderful little ruler tool. Now, I think, yes, I'm currently still on the dark color layer, and I want a soft brush that's going to be almost like streaky, almost too streaky, if you know what I mean. If you worked with digital art very much, you know exactly what I mean. Let's see what this looks like. This might be a little bit too... Huh. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna tone this down just a hair. I don't want it that strong, but that's only because I'm gonna make the brush quite a bit bigger in a second here. And then we'll see what this looks like even. Okay, so what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to line up my tool, my brush, be about the size of these streaks, and then I'm just gonna run it totally along this ruler tool and see how close to this we're getting. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm going to shrink it back down for me. Oopsie. I think I want to go a little bit big with this. Let's start on this very tippy top. That'll be the, oops, right, hidden layer. Okay. Let's see where we're at. Oh, you know what? I want to go bigger. Now, I definitely can see that this is a little too strong already. That's okay. It's definitely something I can work with. So I'm going to go to my favorite blender. Already basically exactly where I want it. I'm just going to try and define these streaks. I'm going to try and avoid going all the way to the center. Because I just want these a little bit lighter, a little bit more... What's the word? Subtle? You know me, you know why that's not something that's at the top of my vocabulary. No one has accused me of being subtle, I don't think, ever. Okay. Yeah, that's still very streaky. Okay. It's okay. I'm gonna just see what this looks like real quick. Yeah, okay. I think we're just not quite strong enough yet. I'm gonna just increase the strength of this brush, my little blender tool. I'm gonna decrease the size of hair. I'm gonna increase the flow as well. Just really be careful not to hit that center, because I want that to be, I wanted to darken that up a bit as well. Okay, switch back, hit one more of those lines with the dark color. Pushing this digital paint back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Should try and get the consistency I'm looking. What's interesting about digital painting or digital art, as opposed to like physical mediums, is like you can't really blend in the traditional way. If you've ever worked with digital art, you know, like if you're trying to mix blue and green or blue and yellow to make green, it ain't gonna happen unless you're using a very specific program. And I honestly, as an artist, didn't even really notice this until I had been digital for years, which I think is absolutely just hilarious. But yeah, it was something once I noticed it, I'm never gonna unnotice it. You know what I mean? Just increasing the flow a little bit. I'm gonna increase the strength as well. Alright, let's close these out. I think the values are pretty close here. You know, looking at the this composition, it's got a lot more of a golden hue to it. And I wonder if I can bring a little bit more of that out. I think that's going to come from... I'm going to try and source that color out. It's like this wonderful reddish gold. I really love this color. I want to make sure it ends up in our composition. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to go back into that top layer. I might not keep this, but I'm going to try and brush it in. With this soft brush I'm working with here, I'm going to decrease the strength just a hair. I'm going to try to see what the flow looks like. After a few strokes here. I'm going to just kind of start from where the color begins to fade. And I'm just going to push it back and forth a bit. That's not quite what I'm wanting. I'm going to lower the, decrease the flow a bit, see what that's like. Hey, that's getting somewhere, don't you think? Okay. Yeah, I think I like this quite a bit. Just work that back and forth. And that actually smooths out a lot of those lines that I was looking out anyway. What a wonderful little bit of circumstance. I love it. Okay. Little touch up here and there. I'm gonna go back to our dark color. I am going to switch brushes to this synthetic fan brush because I like the texture it delivers. Just gonna see what this looks like. That's lovely. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna stop here. Not the drawing, but this background work. I want to start drawing into the figure. I think I have come close to where I want to be. Okay. Interesting. Trying to brighten this little area up right here where we see golden color coming through. Interesting. Acting very strangely. I love it. Okay. Yeah, be difficult. I understand that. Okay. Okay. There we go. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Alright, back to this interesting figure. So I don't know. I don't think I want to go like a full on like hard black with this. Although I think it might. Yeah. Okay. Let's just call it necessary. I'm gonna try a couple things. I'm not sure if I want my approach to be to just hit the outline real hard and then try and make it a little bit resembling this blurry kind of figure, or if I want to try and implement that at this stage. Let's try some things out. I think my good friend and producer Samantha is going to join us in just a second here. So say hey whenever you're ready, Sam.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Oh, I don't know if they can hear me yet. I don't have. Okay, hold on. I closed the window where it has my volume levels. I have turned visibility on. There we go. Okay, so hopefully everyone can hear me now. I just wanted to pop in because I've been watching you working out the color of this, and a bit of trivia popped into the recesses of my mind, and the Willow comics are Marvel, right?
Yes. Yes, they are.
This kind of like orangey reddish background with like the watery floor very much reminds me of like the Soul Stone thing with Thanos.
Oh.
Is it maybe possible that they're not tying Willow to Star Wars, but they're tying it to Marvel?
You just blew my mind, dude. Okay. I'm a big lover of Marvel Comics. I have that Willow comic book. Yes, absolutely. That would be unexpected. And I don't even know how I would feel about that. Honestly, off the top, I'm like, I don't even know. I don't even know. It's so complicated. I have very complicated feelings about the Marvel Universe. But I could definitely see that being very beneficial to to Willow, a franchise I adore and want to succeed in every way it possibly can, because it tells very important stories as far as I am concerned. Oh no! I did it! I drew on my reference layer.
No.
I was distracted. It was good. It was for a good cause. This is fascinating. What if Willow but Marvel? So.
Oh no! I've broken your brain.
Would what's the next couple Marvel? There's a what's the Galaxy Quest Adventure Boys with the tree and the raccoon that I like.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yeah, that's one of the next big titles, right?
Yes. I think they have that, and then They also have the Ms. Marvel show that they're working on.
Oh wow. Okay, cool. So I mean, okay, Willow already has all of the like. We're gonna we have a whole episode coming up, y'all. Keep your eyes out. We'll be talking about the potential tie-ins from Willow to Star Wars. This is something we've thought a lot about. We've already talked about a bunch because you could look it up. There's quite a bit of information. You can watch our podcast. We'll be talking about it in the next couple weeks. We'll have the episode for you. There's a lot there, ultimately. Quite a bit to mine. But the Marvel connection, I mean, is literally in name. It's a Marvel comic. It exists as a Marvel comic. So, I mean, it's right there. Willow is a Marvel character.
Willow is the next Captain America. Calling it. No, Willow is Iron Man.
Oh, geez, that would be a dream. I mean, Warwick deserves it. I mean, Warwick is a legend, a living legend that deserves that kind of wherein that kind of established.
See him in an Iron Man suit.
I would 1,000,000,000,000% be into that.
We need Iron Willow.
Yes, absolutely. Damn.
The campaign starts today, people. Iron Willow. # Iron Willow.
So I guess my question is, how far from after they, if they did that, how far from that connection would the Star Wars and Marvel connection be? Because that's definitely going to happen eventually.
Oh yeah,
if not
I'm sure.
Very soon, especially with this whole multiverse thing they're doing, as well as all of the Star Wars stuff they have coming out.
Yeah, well, Doctor Strange kind of blew it out of the water. Anything is possible now.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Oh, the new one is good. I enjoyed it.
So what's the angle
Of the movie?
No, I mean, like, what do you mean, like, anything's possible?
With the new Doctor Strange, we basically get confirmation that multiverses exist, and that they can exist in several different forms. We see them traveling through several different types of universes. I think there's one where they are paint. There's one that they pass through where I think they're animated, and yeah. So it was very actually reminiscent of Into the Spider-Verse. Have you seen that?
I did. I really liked Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, so it was kind of like the scene in question. They're like traveling through different realities, universes, multiverses, because of Ms. Marvel's power to be able to jump through them. So they're like traveling through this portal, and they go through all of these different like phases where they kind of travel like through them and like transform into like different types of matter depending on the physics of that universe, and then they end up somewhere else.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so
Wild.
They've opened up a can of worms of a lot of different weird things could happen.
Yeah, okay, I see it. Yeah, and I mean, this is something fans of, any fandom now, just about any and every fandom has a connection to a Disney licensed, product or film or something of that nature. So, there's been a lot of talk about, I mean, even for years about, when are we going to get like all of these characters mixed in? Are we going to get like Muppets Star Wars, or are we going to get, which I would be a fan of immediately, sign me up, but, are we going to get, Mickey Mouse as an Avenger, like, these are fan, like, questions that I've definitely thought about since, they acquisitioned Marvel, back in forever ago, when I was nothing but a young person. So, yeah, I'm very curious about how deep this will all go, because, like, yeah, like I was saying, Disney owns, in one way or the other, is part of the conglomerate of media companies that owns so much that they could literally, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, they could throw an alien in a Marvel movie. They could,
Yeah.
we could be Xenomorphs, Predators, and the Avengers. I'm pretty sure they're all owned by the same conglomerate at this point, so I'm sure the licensing would be no issue. It makes me, I'm just so curious how far this will go.
Yeah, anyway, I just wanted to pop in here and actually just because the thought just came to me and my universe was shifted, so I thought I would come in and share that.
Oh yeah, you blew my mind. I'm not gonna not think about that for forever now.
Okay. I'm sorry, and you're welcome.
No, yeah, I appreciate you as always. Thank you. But yeah, let us know in the chat what you think. I barely can contain my I don't even know how to put into words the thoughts. Took me 10 minutes to be like, Mickey Mouse, and in a Marvel movie. So, I have no idea how they make these decisions. Who what's in and what's out. I mean, we do. It's mostly driven by finances and things like that. But Willow's one of those things that I never expected to see these friends again in a film until very recently did I ever think this would actually happen. And yeah, it just goes to show you I have no idea what these people are doing anymore. Like they could literally do anything, and I would neither be I would be hard to find myself to be surprised. It would be it'll always be novel when they do these tie-ins, especially when you're if like me, you were into so many of these different kind of like fan cultures and I'm sorry. Oh yeah. But yeah, when you get if you're into any number of like different subcultures or fan cultures or fandoms or whatever you want to call it, I know many people feel very protective of those things, and I have done a lot to try and get over a lot of that, because it doesn't matter. I'm no longer the target audience for a Marvel movie. At least I don't think I should be. These are stories for kids. They're parables. They're folktales. They're all of the kind of they do a lot of the work of the moral tales, and I don't necessarily. I've talked about this on stream before. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the messages that are being sent to young people through those kinds of movies, but it could be worse, I suppose. And that's why I make art. Ultimately, is I think that there is power in being able to contribute to the narrative that still exists even now after all these years. In fact, exists at a less limited, more manageable, more attainable kind of way than maybe at any point in the past. You're able to try and build yourself a platform and find followers for your work easier than just about any time before. There's a lot of power in that, especially when you feel so passionately about the way that you think that is not necessarily a perspective that gets heard often in society, in culture. It's an amazing thing that to be able to have that ability to build these platforms for ourselves, to do it yourself, and when you don't see yourself represented, when you don't see your friends represented, you know, to try and be the change you want to see in the world and all of that, you know. Yeah, that's a very powerful thing. It's not perfect, and it doesn't really need to be fair. Okay, but we're gonna keep going here into shadow. I'm gonna do it on another layer just so it doesn't interrupt as I'm working with this smeary paint kind of brush. Oh, okay. I think that's a little darker than I need it to be. What do you think? You know what? I'm actually going to source the color. Yeah, okay, that looks a lot better. Just sourcing that color, chunking it in, and all. Yeah, that looks quite nice. Let me disappear my reference. There we go. Okay, let's clean this up just a bit. Okay, it's looking okay. Go back to my smeary brush. Just clean that up a bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. Now that I'm still on this layer, I'm using this darker brown kind of gold color. I've already used it to achieve that shadow. I'm just going to keep using that on this layer. Kind of fill out some of the darker areas we want to contrast. Increase my flow just a hair, make my brush a little bit bigger. Talked about that kind of arrow shape that the reflection of this staff is making earlier and how it's so lovely. We want to make sure we get that. Yeah, it's delightful. I'm just going to kind of go into the areas behind the hard black color, kind of add more of that kind of blurriness to the image. You can see like where I'm going in with this dark brown color. It's like almost instantly showing up under the black. And that just means that that shadow that we want to add is coming through right there. It's exactly what we want. And it might be a little bit too much. I might be over applying here, but we're gonna disappear our reference. It's very... cave painting. That's not exactly the we're going for. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to lower my opacity on some of these layers, see what that does. It's still... Well, I'm happy with it, but I know it needs a little bit of attention. I'm not going to provide it at the moment. I need to focus away from it to come back to it a little bit. More sure of what I'm doing. This is a good thing. You know what? This is so clean, an image. I want to use my little inky brush. I want to try and hit this outline almost perfect. It's such an iconic image from Willow, Sherlindria's wand. I don't want it to be unclear what I'm drawing here. I want to just really, for lack of a better word, ape these lines. Just get it so that it's recognizable to anybody who likes Willow, who loves Willow. And will be excited, like I am, to see the reappearance of one of the most iconic and magical piece of props of our childhood. Like I was saying, we don't talk about Willow a lot. You know, it wasn't necessarily like incredibly well received critically. It may have something to do with the fact that in the naming of characters, Lucas was low-key kind of calling out a handful of critics that, you know, he didn't feel like had very good faith reviews of his work or something of that nature. He thought it would be he thought it would be cute to kind of poke fun at him. And they didn't have a great sense of humor about it, I don't think. Unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, we have a very different opinion about critics in today's today's world than we did back then. Critics, I mean, I feel like when I was a kid, critics were like, you know, super powerful. Like they could get any movie like ruined or made, like, you know, based on their reviews of it. I mean, we didn't have social media necessarily. Definitely not in any kind of sense like we do now. So those critics' reviews were, you know, what the public had to go on before they went to go spend their hard-earned money and spend a couple of hours watching a movie. So when a critic wrote something, it meant something different than it means now. I mean, a Rotten Tomatoes can ruin just about anything, but at the same time, we have a lot easier access to some media through streaming and such that, you know, I mean, more illicit means of collecting media. So it's not the same kind of environment, you know, that it was then. It's a very different kind of vibe. So yeah, some movies just, I mean, really at the time where they were meant to be watched, never really got the viewing that they could have had because of some critical opinion, you know, that someone may have had, and in many cases we know that they were paid to have. Which is, you know, probably cause for some bias. I don't know, I'm just waxing over here. Who knows if that's a real thing? Money causing you to have some bias in your review? I don't know. I don't think there's ever been any research done on this or anything. Anyway, we have a very different way of approaching that now, and that's for the better. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. This is looking pretty good. I'm just gonna draw in this wonderful little... Oh, yeah, so this is something that I wanted to talk about. This is fascinating. This dark, or this, this bright orange, reddish kind of light coming off of the end of Shirley and Ria's wand. We talked me and Sam did a live the other day as a reaction to the trailer on the day it was released, and I thought a lot about what we talked about since then, and I mentioned in the live that there was no point where Shirley and Ria's wand ever looked like this, with this glowing, bright, like reddish orange kind of fieriness, I guess. But thinking back, I realized that there was a part in their duel, Shirley and Ria, or Finrazel and Bab Morda, when I believe, I haven't watched the movie to confirm, but I believe there's a point where Finrazel shoots sparks out of the wand, and it does kind of have a similar vibe to it. When Willow uses the wand, it mostly is emitting some kind of like blue, kind of ethereal, magical color lines, but when Finrazel uses it in the duel, where is my wand layer? Where did I put it? Oopsie. I did an oopsie. That's okay. I did it on one of my other layers, but that's fine. I'm just going to delete one of these blank layers that I was going to use that I'm no longer using. I'm going to throw it right underneath that layer. Do this weird this spot of color. It's kind of like diamond shaped. I'm just going to see what that looks like. Start with this kind of funky orange. But yeah, so when Willow uses the magic, and usually a blue ethereal kind of magic coming out of it, but there is many different types of kind of like manifestations of magic that come about during the duel between Bab Morda and Finrazel when she's using this wand. So I don't know. There's because I was thinking like this could be a duel. Willow is about to face off with someone who's using the power of this this wand in a malicious way or something. But it's totally possible that, as Sam was suggesting, that this was like a training session between Willow and a pupil or something. It's even more likely now that I've thought about it. So I just remembered that there's that very subtle shape of a person, very far edge of the image. I'm gonna go chunk that in real quick. Let's see. You know what? I don't want to miss this line, so I'm just gonna lower the opacity a bit. Oops. Not drawing the reference layer, but in fact, a new layer. I guess I could use this layer. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Notice me wiggling before I find that line. I want to make sure this is clean. So I'm just trying to take my time, find where this line wants to go. And if it's not perfect, that's okay. There isn't enough I can fix this after it's been put in. Okay, but let's get rid of the reference layer. That looks pretty good. A little bit squiggly, but we're gonna fix that real quick. Just get my trusty shaping tool. Find that line. Go real small. Perfect. Okay. So here we have an interesting thing about digital art. Trying to find that fuzziness that you see in this image, in our reference image. That yeah, that blurry image. It's such a textural kind of experience that we're getting out of it. Exactly. Field of depth blur. Thank you, Sam. And we're getting like all kinds of what is essentially like visual distortions because of the depth of the focus, and that's why we're seeing this character just so in these big kind of like almost chunks of color and shape that almost requires a textured approach rather than a smooth painterly approach, which in digital can be a little bit challenging to achieve sometimes. But I'm just kind of scrolling through my brushes here to see the best way to kind of pull this off. Like in studying this specific image right here, just of Willow blurred into the background, you can notice like my felt pen, yeah. You can notice in here there's like this shadow. And that's, I think, also because this area that we're standing in is also kind of misty. So it's picking up shadow off of close objects. The light's coming from the right side of the frame. So any kind of like movement within that misty area is going to kind of play through that light as well. So we're seeing this kind of like just like levels of, if you zoom in, you can see how these layers of color start to appear one after the other after the other. Yeah, and this can be kind of a funky thing to pull off digitally. You know, all of these slight variances. As I've said, you know, there's no real way to actually mix on canvas like you would in physical medium in digital. You have to get creative. And luckily, digital art does give you quite a bit of options to find that creative voice, if you will, or that spark. I know that we've already done all of Willow. He's there. We have him in, right? But I want to see something. I'm gonna just hide those layers real quick. I'm gonna start a new one. I'm gonna use my hard black, and I'm using this salty watercolor. If you watch the stream, I've said multiple times, this is my favorite brush. I use it for any number of things. Smoke, water, you know, clouds. It does a lot of really wonderful things. And so for this mistiness, I want to see what it looks like. What's interesting is you'll notice, just give you a clear picture of what it looks like. I mean, this is the brush. That's what it looks like if you just stamp it. You can see these like areas where the opacity increases and decreases within the brush stroke. And when you move that brush stroke around, you can see that that pattern kind of still manifests, no matter how much you smear it. Now I'm no sciencer, but I'm pretty sure this is exactly what we want. So I'm just going to be tweaking with the strength and flow for a second here. Yeah, that was necessary. Okay. Let's increase just a hair. Go a little bit more. Just a bit more. Just a bit. Jumps 20, 30. Anyway, I think this is about where I want it. I'm going to actually not make it so hard a black, make it a little bit browner. Where am I? I think I want to be a little bit darker though. Let's say 7. Thank you. Yeah, that looks delightful. Okay. So we're going to try and just do this from scratch on a fresh layer. See what it looks like at the end of this. Yeah. Did you guys watch Willow as a kid? What was something that drew you to it if you did? I'm curious because it was really important to me as a kid. And I don't know if I was really 100% sure why at the time, but I've thought about it quite a bit. Like I said, we have a podcast. It's kind of my job now to do that in a way. So yeah, it's something I've thought about a lot. And I was actually I've been thinking about this for quite some time. Just I recently in the last year or two, I live with somebody who one of my roommates makes content as well. They have a podcast where they talk about movies, and we did an episode together where we talk about Master of the Universe. And I was really inspired by that episode in a way. I mean, I had been watching a lot of BreadTube or LeftTube, whatever you like to call it, for quite some time before that, which led me to Renegade Cut, which is one of the best video essayists on the planet, as far as I'm concerned, who actually did an episode about Masters of the Universe that I did end up watching as part of my kind of research for that episode. And I found something really interesting about like kind of analyzing that work, how kind of like how narratives in the media have changed over the course of my life, and in some ways to its own detriment, and to the detriment of all the people, all of us watching it. Now that I've got a lot of this color, now that I've got a lot of this color chunked in, I'm gonna tone down the brush just a bit, go in with the black into these areas where I know that it was like the hardest areas of color. Like this leg up to the torso and to about right around this area. we'll see how this looks in a minute. But yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen Masters of the Universe either, but what's really interesting about that movie is if you're at all were a fan of He-Man or Masters of the Universe, the animated show, or even just the toys, um, you'll notice something very interesting. A great many of the characters from the show and the toy line never made it into the film. Now, some of this we know, like Cringer and Orko, was a financial decision. This was made by Canon Films. If you've never heard of them, they've had a whole documentary made about the production house was kind of chaotic, and that's putting it very lightly. But yeah, it was a Canon film, and so the big budget, like production kind of stuff they would have had to do for like Cringer and Orko was just a little bit too much. But what I think is really interesting is that among the characters missing, that could have very well been included, and in fact, kind of like in some ways, they replace with their own versions of these characters, are like King Randor, or even more of a mind blower, Prince Adam. That's right. He-Man is the only character of the two of those that ever appears in the movie. He never turns into Prince Adam. In fact, the entire royal family, as well He-Man's mom, as well as King Randor, the whole royal court, and many of He-Man's allies from the toy line in the show never make an appearance. It's just him, Man-at-Arms, and Teela. And of course Gwildor, played by the absolutely always brilliant Billy Barty, absolute legend, absolutely crushing it in the movie. Yeah. So I watched that movie several times in a row, kind of like preparing for this with this new kind of like perspective. And it's interesting that at the end of the film, He-Man's not Prince Adam again. Danger is past. It's over. But he's not Prince Adam anymore. In fact, there's no like signifiers of like royalty. No one's calling him King He-Man, even though he just saved the world. There's no like specific celebration of just He-Man. In fact, the only person who seems to be kind of celebrating in a selfish or individualistic kind of way is the character that randomly was brought into Eternia at the end of the film to fight a battle in the halls of Grayskull. The cop character. So it's, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to consider the fact that all of these kind of like ideas about heroes and royalty that kind of tend to surround each other, especially in fantasy and in fiction, I guess, more if you're being fair, kind of more generally. It doesn't even appear in a movie that's, I mean, in its original inception, absolutely a story about, you know, a royal family and their kind of attempt to serve the world, protect the world, and that in the film ultimately being depicted as failing, Skeletor being victorious, and how do they clean up after that mess? And it just intentionally or unintentionally, I think it's more than readable as a kind of anti-imperialist narrative, which is my jam, baby. And yeah, it just made me love that movie more. And whether or not my reading is, you know, what's the word? like approved by canon, scholars or whatever of the Master of the Universe franchise. I think that it's a perfectly, I think it's a perfectly appropriate reading of the events of that film. And yeah, Willow is our Swole Pearl King. We love him. We stan. So based. So poggers. Alright, this is probably going to be a disaster, but let's look at it. Let's look at it. Let's look at this disaster. Not as bad as it could have been. Let's throw those other Willow layers back up, see what that looks like. I don't hate it. I think it looks a lot. I think there needs to be a little bit more work into kind of the oh, you know what? I'm going to try another trick that I do often. I'm going to dupe every layer right now. Not every, but all my Willow layers. And then I'm going to keep just scooting the ones I want visible up. And the others that are hidden layers down. I'm just trying to keep them in the same order so I don't get lost. Yeah, okay, so I have all these layers together. I'm just going to merge them, slam them together. Bing bong. Okay. So now we have this image all together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dupe it again so I don't lose it, because I might not like what I do right now. And that's okay. I'm going to use this other blender brush that isn't the favorite blender brush, but it is a good blender brush that I do like. And we're just going to wiggle it all around over here. We're just gonna get real wiggly. I hope you're like, are you feeling wiggly today? I'm feeling right wiggly. Actually, I'm kind of loving this. This looks pretty damn, like, close to what I'm looking for. Smooth, but it's ill-defined. It's kind of vague, but you know what you're looking at. You just know that you're looking at it through a level of obscurity. That idea of light, shadow, the contrast, the clear, the unobservable. These are, elements that don't just trace back to art history or the history of how people have been composing images. It's even deeper than that. I mean, this is oh shit, I lost my train of thought. That's okay. But yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, people who do sleight of hand magic have a very similar kind of set of skills as people who are trying to trick you with light and shadow in an image. We're all using the same framework, ultimately, in one way or another. in a way that's just how people often say everything is form in a way. You know, I cook quite a bit, and I definitely think more than I think more than a fair amount of people would say that, yeah, cooking is an art form. I feel things when I'm doing it. It's an emotional process, and I'm often feeding people that I care about, my loved ones, my partner, or and that act of service is something that I think is very important. Hey, would you look at that? I want to clean up this face here. Just a little bit of tricks. Oopsie. Not that much. There we go. Yeah. I was catching a lot of highlights, so I wanted that was coming out there. Okay. That's pretty damn good. If I'm not gonna lie here, I like that quite a bit. Even if it's not image to image perfect, it feels so much like what I wanted the image to look like, how the image feels, you know. There's that use of the composition to kind of like show you the way I'm seeing it, I guess. I pointed out several things in the beginning of the stream that I really like about it, and you'll notice that's where I focused most of my attention. This odd little sliver to the right side of the frame. How the wand comes just to the right of center of the frame. How Willow's new staff is making a kind of arrow shape in his shadow. All of these elements kind of like being brought into this piece that I've been working on for what, the last hour? A little bit more than an hour? Alright. Well, I'm quite happy with this. I'm gonna take a quick bathroom break. I will be right back, so don't go nowhere. We'll be back to finish, put some finishing touches on this, and who knows? Maybe do a whole new drawing. Alright. So, we've been drinking a lot of coffee and drawing Willow from the new trailer. And I am pretty happy with this image. I don't think I'm going to go back in too much into it, but I do keep looking at that layer. The layer that's the kind of light streaks. I think I'm just going to see what the opacity... what it looks like with the opacity lowered just a hair, because we notice in the original image it's very flight. I think that looks a lot better. That's much more the kind of effect we're trying to achieve there. And I think I'm gonna just try and adjust my background layer, the one that I did the fill tool from earlier, to just kind of get more where we're trying to go with the tone of the piece. We want it a little darker. Let's try the color balance instead. So we want the highlights. Let's say the highlights are very yellow. Let's say the midtones are quite orange. Let's say the shadow is very brown. We're still not quite there. I think it's in the midtone, because we want the midtone orangey, but we also want it, let's say closer to golden. So I'm just gonna kind of tweak here and there. Oopsie. Working on my phone, guys. You can tell, because sometimes I will just close the window I'm working. Alright. That's making it too yellow, though. Alright, let's go back to the highlights. Let's cut a little bit of orange into that yellow. Okay. Now we're too bright, though. Am I right? I think that's what I think, anyway. I think that's what I think. So I'm just gonna go down to the lightness, reduce until I like where I'm at. I think I want to meet myself somewhere in the middle. Okay, let's pull this back up. Let's put it on the top layer, and flashing warning again. This is going to happen in just a second. Yeah, alright. I'm going to actually just undo that, because I think I liked the original more. Yes. It's not picture perfect. It's not a direct, like, one-to-one with the colors. And as much as I like these colors, I think it's okay. Although now that I'm looking at it as the top layer, I notice the wand pretty dead on. I think I need to blend a little bit of that, but it's basically right there. You know what? Can't hurt, right? We're just gonna hide our background layer. We're gonna hide our We're gonna bring that back up as our original reference for the color layer. This actually looks pretty dope, I gotta admit. It's hard white background. Anyway, we're just gonna do a whole another background layer with the radial fill. I want it a lot darker. That's just a lot more gold, a lot more kind of shadowy, spooky. Spooky is maybe not the right word, but you get what I mean. How we doing? There we go. Hello. Hold up, I know we're not there. I know it's not, but I want to try something real quick. I might do this all over again in 2 seconds, but this is sometimes how my brain works, so bear with me. Hey, that's a lot more what I'm looking for. Okay, hold on. You ready? Okay. Well, it's not perfect. It doesn't matter, though. This looks great. I'm really happy with it. Okay, we got there. We got to a very close approximate, and I'm very happy with where this turned out. Or how this turned out. I am going to just adjust, because I know being a little darker, I'm going to want a little bit more of this, streaky layer. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Might do one finishing touch here. Big round. Synthetic round. We're gonna go max in. Relax in. There's a whole verse that my brain's doing, but we're not gonna get in that. Okay. We're allowed to fail. Okay. Alright. Go off. That's done. I'm calling it. That looks exactly like what I thought would happen. And it is exactly what I wanted. So we're there. I'm calling it. This is a done piece. We still have some time left in this. So I've got another half hour. I'm going to start a new piece, a new canvas, a fresh canvas. Oh, I should probably... throw my scribble on it. So yeah, if you have a suggestion you would like to give me for this new canvas, please throw it in the chat. I'm just going to start by messing with some background layers, or colors. I love my colors. Ooh, that's very bright. Oh, again, flashing colors and lights warning. Don't want to catch you off guard. I like a nice deep blue. Let's see what this is. Okay. Even if you just have a suggestion for a color, you hit me in the chat. I'm going to start off drawing. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Let's just do, I'm going to tell you about a character. So when I was in middle school, it was a very interesting time in my life. And at one point, I ended up on the middle school newspaper. I gotta tell you, I had no idea what I was doing. Now what I eventually did, after some coaxing and some encouragement from some of the nice people that I was luckily on the newspaper with, I developed a couple of characters. A crime-fighting team of heroes named Sassy Pants, and this character, Tongue Man. Very tongue-shaped, if you hadn't picked that up. I don't blame you. But yeah, that's why I tell you. Very tongue-shaped individual. We've got a fancy cape. Kind of, that's terrible. Let's try that again. Yeah, I haven't drawn these characters in a really long time. But I used to draw them obsessively. I think I still have them lying around in my old stuff, but when at one point I got kicked out of my parents' house, and I definitely lost a lot of my written and like all of my notebooks. I think several of them got tossed out in the process. So there's some missing pieces there, but I do think I have at least some of the early sketchbooks where I started their drawings. They were a team of brothers. Sassy Pants and Tongue Man were brothers, yes. Yes, one was a tongue and one was a pair of pants. This is Sassy Pants. I guess, more accurately, Sassy Pants is a pair of shorts. And this is basically just them. That's our buds. Sassy Pants and Tongue Man. Ah. They're perfect. This is almost exactly as I drew them then. So, you get all of the artistic talent, you know, in one person sometimes. Nature just isn't prepared. Sarcasm, I assure you. Yeah, so these are my boys. Their parents were Dixie Cup, a literal Dixie Cup. You know, like the kind you might find at a party. I think her eyes were here. I can't remember. And she had a cute little nose. She was very nice. Oh. I think she had some curly hair up above her head or something. I can't remember. Maybe it was like fizz? Is that what it was supposed to be? I don't remember. Ultimately, it's not important. She was just a very nice old lady. That was their mom. Oh no. Their dad was another superhero. Their mom and dad used to be a crime-fighting duo as well, but they're retired now. But I can't remember what the dad was. It's been too long. But yeah, this was me in middle school. So, to be fair, Aqua Teen Hunger Force hadn't happened yet. You know, don't call me out on stealing people's ideas. Okay? I was drawing cups with a personality before it was cool. It was never cool, just to be clear. But I do remember their villain, the central villain, the only one I ever actually put into a comic, because a lot of the time I wouldn't even get through an issue. It was just like I would come up with a concept, write a few panels, and then be like, how do I do this? And then, but I got through most of one issue with this character as the central villain. Their name was TikTok Mr. Clock. And they had this kind of like weird curly mustache that was kind of like asymmetrical because they are a clock person. And just kind of wild-eyed goober with some mean eyebrows and a grungly mouth. I don't know if grungly is a real word. And then he had his wonderful little bells and the little hammer in between. And he was a bad guy, so he didn't get a cape. But this was, I mean, he looks more like a hamburger right now, but you get it. This was TikTok Mr. Clock. I think he had a plan to stop time or break the space-time continuum. I can't really remember. It wasn't important. They were just wonderful little cartoon characters that that helped me make friends. Because people really liked these cartoons. I'm sure you could ask some of them I'm still friends with on some of the people I was in that newspaper department with in middle school are still on my like Facebook friends, so I have to check in and be like, hey, you remember this remember old Sassy Pants and Tongue Man? See if it comes back. But yeah, that's most of the cast. I can't remember Dad. Oh, I remember now. Okay, Dad. Oh, Dad. Oh my God, this was so bad. Dad was called Captain Starfish. And yes, this is as good as I would have drawn it back then. I'm not making this worse because it's funny. It's simply just a matter of fact that these are as good as they ever got. And right now it's probably ever will get. I mean, I probably could put more time into these, frankly. I'm being nice to myself. I could put more time into these and make them very cool, but I will not. Because they're meant to be silly. They're meant to look bad. Just having a little goof. Just having a little goof, you know? Oh man, this was a really horrendous little... how did I draw his eyes? I'm pretty sure his eyes were, like, up here. Oh, that's so terrible, no. Why would I do that? Who would do such a thing? He also had glasses, so he's got these little things. I can't believe I remember this now. No, he did have a cape, because he was a superhero in his past, and he's a dad, so he lives in his past. In his prime, like all dads. We stand. And that's it. That's Captain Starfish. That's the dad. There you have it. These were the first, like, superhero team I ever created, plus villain. And that's a little treat for you. Just for you, because I care. I also have really bad handwriting. I'm just going to reveal that about myself if you hadn't already guessed. I'm going to do a little title here, real quick. I'm also really bad at spelling, so that'll be fun too. Of Sassy Pants. And that's okay. Wait. T-O-N-G-U-E? Yeah, sure. Why not? Tongue Man. Perfect. Use this as your own deep fried meme. It is exactly what it's supposed to be. This is who I am. Accept me or don't. I do not care. Oh my gosh. Yeah, thanks for yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I could definitely keep just cracking little bad drawings out. But I don't want to scare you away. So tell me if you want me to stop. Also. But yeah, I'm having a blast. So if you're having fun, we're all just having fun together, and I love it. Let's see. What? There's a little jade, yeah. You know, let's do something formless. Let's just kind of like paint it. Now, this is a fun little tool I like to use where it'll just select color. Right now I have it set up so it goes all around the color within this limited kind of spectrum. So it won't leave this where the blue lines are indicating. It won't go any further or than those lines on the color spectrum, but it'll use the entire color wheel for it. So I'm just gonna grab a funky brush and just chunk in some paint. Sometimes doing these, you'll get ideas for something just as you're going. Like you'll see something in the shapes that you're drawing and be pulled into it. There's actually a little phenomenon called pareidolia, if I'm not mistaken. People tend to see faces in the recognizable shapes where there are none. You know, it's the same kind of phenomenon where you see people see Jesus in a slice of toast or whatever. You know, but in art, this has actually been something where people have focused almost like entire little subcultures into it, where there was a game that was invented a long time ago. I can't quite remember. I was doing this, but called, if I'm not mistaken, Gobolinks or Gobolinks, where you would essentially do like the ink blot tests. What's the word? Huh? Yeah, where you would do like these homemade Rorschachs and kind of like play a game based around it. It was it's a really fascinating history with like you know, seeing that kind of like exercises that whole idea of you know, artist perception or intention versus the audience or a viewer, and how they perceive something, or even how I perceive something differently than you, regardless of where we are, performer, observer, etc. It's in a way, it's kind of like, I feel like maybe the kind of search for self, or search for identity, search for community, the same kind of search we all find ourselves on in life at one point or another. I like a lot of this. Okay, let's try something out here. I'm gonna... Ooh, okay, we're on a time limit. Yeah, I forgot. So I'm gonna try something really fast. We're gonna go over lines twice. That's all we're doing. We're just gonna go over them twice. Oopsie. Come back. So, I was talking about how you can't mix green or blue and yellow to make green in digital art, right? But what you can do is this. And personally, I think this is fascinating. I've spent a lot of time with physical mediums. It was something I did a lot before I found digital. This is a kind of thing you can really only do in digital. These odd mixes of color, how they blend together, how the images find, or the colors find their own way to blend together in a way that's not natural. But still represents like an understanding of color that's just not human in a way. You know what I mean? I think this is fascinating, but it also looks like this. I don't know. You ever I don't know, if you're old enough, you have spent time some of those with those old TV screens that were the big old boxes. You know that occasionally you would get a screen that looked very similar to this, indicating you messed up. In a way, this is like a modern warning sign. You know what I mean? Symbols are fascinating and ever-changing. Just like humanity, just like society, just like all of us internally. And it's kind of a beautiful thing when you think about it like that. But, I think that's just about it for me today, folks. I really appreciate you stopping in and listening to me ramble on. Talk about Willow, talk about art, talk about myself. I do that a lot. I want you to check out our podcast, Ignore the Bird, Follow the River. We have our next episode coming out in 2 weeks. Thursday the 9th, I think. And it'll be our episode on Star Wars and Willow, where we kind of try and find the similarities to talk about potential connections and all. We have a bunch of episodes up already, deep dives into characters. Make sure to check out the Nerdcrafty Twitch this Saturday, the 4th. If you didn't know, now you know. The 4th is International Tabletop Day. First Saturday in June of every year is a big celebration of tabletop games, the communities we build while playing them, and it's definitely one of those things that I genuinely mean it when tabletop games have been a life-saving thing for me, helped me feel more connected to people I care very much about, and it's a very valuable thing to me. The community is very important. That aspect of it, I think, is something that we're becoming we talk more about now, and I think that's some very fantastic progress we've made. We still have a ways to go, but we're gonna do our part. I know you will as well. So you take care out there, and we will see you next week Tuesday. We'll see you this week Saturday, and we'll be seeing you a lot in the future. We've got so much coming out. So it's been real. Y'all take care out there.